New reports indicate that Michigan University paid a firm to dig up dirt on some of the victims who had accused Larry Nassar of sexual misconduct. The report indicates that public relations firm Weber Shandwick billed Michigan State University for more than $500,000 for January as it tracked social media activity surrounding the case of convicted physician Larry Nassar that often included the accounts of his sexual assault victims and their families. Now, what this report also found was, in addition to tracking the social media activity of Nassar's victims and family, the firm tracked those of journalists, celebrities, and politicians. They had billed the university January of this year for more than $500,000. Previously, the university itself was doing their own digging. But as these investigations move forward into MSU's role in all of this, we're finding some pretty devastating new information. The former dean of MSU was recently arrested, a story that we reported on last week, and the special prosecutor investigating this case gave a press conference and explained why. Take a look.
And the end result of that is that we're here today having charged former Dean William Strample with a number of charges. The 4 charges that I would anticipate he's going to be arraigned on this afternoon are count 1, misconduct in office, which is a 5-year felony. The second count is criminal sexual conduct in the 4th degree, which is a 2-year high misdemeanor, and 2 counts of willful neglect of duty, which are 1-year misdemeanors. But I want to highlight paragraphs 28 and 29 of the probable cause affidavit, because I think they summarize the basis of the misconduct charge against former Dean Strample. In paragraph 28, as dean of the college, Strample used his office to harass, discriminate, demean, sexually proposition, and sexually assault female students in violation of his statutory duty as a public officer. In paragraph 29, as dean of the college, Strample abused the authority of his public office through threats and manipulation to solicit, receive, possess pornographic images of women who appear to be MSU students in violation of his statutory duty as a public officer.
So we have the former dean who was being investigated to see whether or not he knew that Larry Nassar was abusing these female athletes, arrested because that investigation turned up evidence that he was possibly guilty of sexual misconduct of his own. And then now we're finding through a report that was done by USA Today that the university itself had hired a firm to essentially track the social media activity of the victims and also the journalists reporting on these stories.
These big institutions like Michigan State University, like the Catholic Church, like Penn State during the Jerry Sandusky situation, they close ranks to protect the institution. Mm-hmm. And you see that here also. You know, in the cases that I've mentioned, where you look at Penn State, you look at the Catholic Church, they don't call the cops, they view it as an internal matter. Same thing was true at Penn State. They didn't alert anyone to what was going on at Sandusky, and they knew what was happening there. They tried to handle it as an internal matter. And here too, you see Michigan State hiring these outside firms to try to dig up and protect the institution frankly, from falling apart. I mean, you get to a point where the reputation of the institution is so muddied that nobody wants anything to do with it. And so there's so much of that going on here. It's heinous because of what was happening there. But it's so typical of the institution to close ranks to try to protect itself.
It's so nauseating too. Yeah. It's just absolutely disgusting. And you do see that. You do see them closing ranks, and it just makes you think honestly about the humanity there. Who are you protecting? I mean, you look at some of the figures, how much they were paying out to this PR firm, or what was?
Yeah, it's a PR firm.
I mean, think about that. Think about what are you protecting? You want PR from the victims and their families of a sexual predator?
I mean, it would be much better to come forward and say, as a university, instead of trying to cover things up and hide things from the public, which, by the way, all things dark come to light.
Yes.
It'd be way better to come forward and say, this was happening, we are taking action, these people are being outed, reported to the authorities, we are gonna change X, Y, and Z in order to prevent this from happening in the future. Be proactive, do what's necessary to prevent it from happening in the future, instead of being so concerned about your brand and your reputation. Your reputation is destroyed, and it was further destroyed by the fact that you're trying to cover things up by hiring a PR firm to track these victims online.
Yeah, not only were they not proactive, Anna, they were reactive, and they went back into their corners trying to protect. You have to ask yourself, what did you really think you were protecting here? And you just must have absolutely lost sight of what is important. I'm just very grateful that everything in the darkness will come to the light, and there has been this moment of reckoning, because it's really, I'm sure you guys cover this here, just hearing the accounts of these victims that came forward and were able to speak out. It's really hard not to swear right now.
Right, how do you listen to that testimony?
Right.
There were, upward of 120 women who came forward and testified during Nassar's trial. How do you listen to that testimony and then decide, oh, the real victims are, could be us, so let's go ahead and cover up, hire the necessary people to protect our name, and our reputation? It's not gonna work, first of all. And secondly, have a little bit of empathy for those victims and take the appropriate measures to prevent this from happening in the future.
You just watched the video by the Young Turks, home of the revolution. If you'd like to get a lot more than that, get the full show by becoming a member. tytnetwork.com/join.